Better?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, good. I'm sorry about that. This has been an adventure, I can tell you. All right, so here we are. We have no set agenda tonight. We got a couple of people watching us already on YouTube. People are watching live. If you're watching directly on YouTube, please use the live chat if you have questions for the panel. Let's do a quick introduction. So my name is Peter Lamb, PeteLamb.com, the host of the Firefighter Training Podcast. Kevin, say hello to the group.
Hello, everyone. Kevin Burns, retired Deputy Fire Chief with the Framingham Fire Department in Massachusetts.
Chief Cagno.
Chief John Cagno, retired North Providence Fire Department. Welcome, everybody.
And Chief Pernesti.
Chief Joe Pernesti, City of Elyria, Ohio Fire Department, Northern Ohio near Cleveland. Thanks for having me, Chief.
Always a pleasure, Joe. Always a pleasure. I see you're on duty tonight, so if you have to spring into action, you're forgiven.
Yeah.
So what are we thinking? What do we want to talk about? There's a lot of topics out there. We just had a whole spate of historical fires. That's a piece that Chief Pernesti's very passionate about. There's a lot of discussion about, is there something wrong with the fire service or right with the fire service? Kevin, what are you thinking? Is the fire service changed? Is there something going right or wrong with it? What are you thinking?
Well, I think there's a lot right with it, Chief. I think just what we're doing here, the social media thing, the ability to exchange ideas and information is wonderful. I think this whole looking at things through the lens of science is a good thing, good healthy debate. And at the same time, never losing sight of where we came from. Those traditional tactics and strategy, most times still apply. The only thing probably, Chief, in my experience, is not going to enough fires. That's where puts that premium now on training. But boy, our job is so experience based. That's our Achilles heel, I think. There's plenty of fires out there, but I don't think anybody's going to as many fires as we used to or that we want to.
Yeah, so there's always that debate. We might as well go down that path, right? There's always the debate of is it education? Is it knowledge? Is it experience? What do I really need? Is it vocational aptitude, experience, or is it the collegiate education certification level or what have you? There's always that debate. John, what do you think? Right? What's right with the fire service, wrong with the fire service? We heard from Kevin. Let's hear from you, John.
Well, I think we need to start being a little bit more honest with ourselves. We have a tendency to dance around topics and dance around issues. I think we need to be a little bit more truthful rather than sugarcoating things.
Okay. What about where Kevin was saying, there's less fires? What does that do to us? I mean, does that have an effect? What's the net effect? Kevin talked about a lot of positives. You're suggesting we need to be a little more honest. I certainly might agree with you in several areas on that. But the impact of social media, are we doing it right or are we doing it wrong? What are you thinking, John?
In regards to social media, and I don't know exactly how you say it, but something about how it moves too fast. Obviously, when something goes down, we have a tendency to put it on social media too fast. Before getting all the facts. Although it's a great tool to spread information, and when we do it correctly, and properly in the right fashion, it's a good thing. And certainly, if we had these tools when we were young firemen, we'd be better educated.
Yeah, I do count my blessings every day, John, because I feel that I'm blessed that most of my career was done before YouTube started. And because I would have been a star of YouTube, I would have been on Dave Statter every morning, I'm sure. I'm probably blessed that it's a little later in my career. Joe Pernesti, what are you thinking? State of affairs in the fire service. What do you got? You heard a couple of opinions.
Well, I think sometimes we live in a social media storm where the loudest carnival barker wins. I like that. Whether it's Twitter or Facebook, today's officer in their schooling, I wish there was a class in how to social media for the good of your crews. And because I think that's sorely lacking. I get quite upset with some, he who barks the loudest gets the most attention. Some of that's good, but I get a little tired of the moaning and groaning about aggressive attack and this and that. And come on, let's just do what we know and train and sort through the. Unfortunately, we have to sort through the.
Yeah, I guess I would say to you, it's interesting to me that we. Do you think that some people on social media, in fact, this is Pete's opinion, right? It's my show, so I can give you my opinion. I think that some people are just deliberately antagonizing on social media, just throwing grenades. I think there are people out there just throwing grenades to see how many hits I could get or see how many retweets I could get or whatever. I do a lot of teaching and get around and about. And, I got to tell you, if you pulled up my social media on Twitter, let's check out this Pete Lamb guy. What is he putting out? It's either a positive something or it's a training something or it's something about the veterans or what. You know what? I'd hang my social media out on a clothesline any day of the week because I understand the power of it. And I don't want to, abuse what we have there. It's amazing to see what people are putting out there every day. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I was just gonna say, and that's the thing that it's actually harming those of us that want to put out that, positive things. Worry about being too careful or upsetting people. But related. So but I absolutely agree with you. People out there that probably have no business saying anything, and they want to add their 2 cents. And I think we've also have a culture now of younger firefighters, the wrong firefighters who maybe came on right around when the debate of science or whatever was coming on, and now they're breeding keep up the fight stuff. And I hate that. I think that's the worst thing for our service.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what Joe saying. We watched a video the other day, and I was absolutely horrified by what I saw. And I guess the problem was, to go back to what Joe was saying, is that you got young impressionable firefighters watching these different videos or podcasts or whatever. And it could be anybody that's putting it out there. We don't know their level of experience, their level of training, who they're mimicking, who they've taken stuff from and reproduced it, so to speak. Whether it's original. You think of a young impressionable firefighter. I mean, I don't know if it was Joe that had said, somebody's being mentored by these people, and if you're mentored the wrong way, you're getting the wrong information, it could have consequences. So, it's a great tool. And like I said earlier, we would have loved this thing back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I guess. But, now there's no screening, there's no censoring of it. Anybody can get out there and do it. And I'm not knocking those people that are trying to do the right thing. But, what are the parameters, or how do we make parameters? And like Joe said, maybe there ought to be a class.
Yeah, well, you know what? what's the point of having a class if nobody's going to take it? You know, I have a theory that, listen, if we're going to teach a hot class on how to weld a ring on a Halligan and swing it off the roof on a piece of chain, and everybody's coming to that class. Nobody's coming to the social media class. So we've decided, and you know what? Speaking of phonies that put out a podcast every week, I mean, I'm very familiar with that, but social media has allowed everyone to hang out a shingle, and there is no validation any longer. You know, I'm a self-professed podcast fire expert. Now, I don't think I got the worst message in the world, but essentially that's what I decided one day when I picked up a microphone. I got a message to share, and here it is. Nobody's filtering what I say. Lord knows they should some weeks, but nobody's filtering it. So I think that, you know, the speed of social media, I agree with Chief Burns. You know, we could look at glass half full, glass half empty. But I think that I think there's more positives than negatives. I think, you know, look at, so, you know, Chief Pernesti's in Ohio, John, you're somewhere here in Rhode Island, Kevin's up in Framingham, and we're broadcasting live to, you know, this will be out there on YouTube as a live broadcast. What's better than that? What's better than that to share good information? I think, you know, I think there's an upside to it, but I do think that there's some rabble rousing going on in the fire service. And I'm more and more convinced, the more outrageous the post is, I'm more and more convinced somebody's doing it to get attention and retweets and Facebook shares and likes and whatever's going on. So that's out there. What's the let's shift gears a little bit. What's the newest piece of technology that you think is promising for the fire service? What are you seeing that's going to help us? What are you seeing that's going to make the place? John, you know, we were talking about an episode we watched of a video the other day, and it put, you know, how do I make the place better than I found it? How do I leave it better than I found it? Was kind of an overlying theme to that, and that's interesting. Joe, what do you think is going to take us in the next 5 years? What do you think is going to take us forward in the next 5?
I think what we're doing right here, that if you can get 3 chiefs ride on a computer to a young firefighter and maybe do simulations or just talk, you know, size up and tactics, looking at a video, ability to talk to 3 chiefs from 3 different states all at once, channeled that to the best of our abilities. But I think this is the way it's going, that I think that more and more departments that are, you know, want to try to save a buck, in this day and age, we all have to. We have to produce good technology to disseminate at a good price or free or whatever. And the first thing I can think of is doing size up or simulations or doing, you know, quick hour or 2-hour class via the web like this. People interact and boom, you have an instant class. The kid can look at it on their phone, and we feel better because we feel like we're putting out good positive stuff, and they feel better because they got some good information that, you know, 3 old guys have been able to give them. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think this technology will take us into the future. And I also think, you know, you said something that's kind of interesting, and I'll throw it in now because it is interesting. You know, a lot of my whole career has been fire services, one size fits all. That is, you know, there's an NFPA standard on whatever the heck it is, underwater basket weaving, and Joe's going to do it in Elyria, and Kevin's going to do it in Framingham. John would have done it in his department or what have you. And I am more convinced today that it is not one size fits all. The way things are done in the Elyria Fire Department, the geographics of your city, the demographics of your city, the amount of manpower you have is completely different from our friend Adam that used to be with us in Iowa. It's not even real. It's not even the same.
And so sometimes I think the one size, listen, I'm all for national standards. I'm all for those things. And I don't want anybody to think I lost my mind here. But the fact is, there are some differences. And I think that what you said, Joe, was bringing three chiefs from three different parts of the country together now makes a size up class completely different. If I go to a size up class and it's taught by an FDNY guy, that may have little or nothing to do with my world ever.
Right.
Great guy, ton of experience, but you know, I'm not working in H-style old law tenements. That's not where I work. So
exactly. And I think one of the things with the simulations and technology is that you could have somebody take pictures of their buildings, use technology, email them to wherever, their city, their apparatus, and then you just have three. It's kind of like the what do you call it, like the consultants that will come in and look at your fire department.
right.
Consultants coming and looking at your buildings and helping you size those up. I think that's the future. Things that kind of disappointed me in some classes that I take at C is that, you know, without getting into too much detail, some of the instructors is preaching to, you know, you're right, like the FDNY type of deal where apply some of the basics of building construction and all that does, but 40 people on a first alarm. And sometimes I think a good instructor is one that can apply based on the individual or the audience's department or you know, tactics, strategies, apparatus, personnel, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, I think John and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We were doing a program together, and you know, when I learned instructor methodology, the first thing was know your audience. And when you get to the national conferences, when you're in a room with 200 people at FDIC, then you can't match that audience. You got to go from soup to nuts because you got the rookie and you got the experienced person. So it's hard to say. John, what's going to be the topic in the next 5 years in the fire service? What do you think the next 5 is going to do for us?
I hope it's to tell the truth, Pete.
To tell the truth. That's an old game show, you know. There's only there's a couple of people old enough to know that. That's to tell the truth.
I do like what Joe is saying. You know, that's a great you know, area for us to format, if you will, and then you know, not everybody can spend $2 or $3 grand to go to a convention or whatever. So you know, to bring it to them, right to their, you know, right into their home, where they, you know, they can get it for free or for minimal cost, and then get you know, a perspective from different parts of the country. That's a great tool in itself. Hot training is hot training, you know, and all young firefighters need it. But you know, we need to start focusing more on the discussion end of things, because you know, what makes good firefighters is thinking firefighters. And until we start doing a lot more of the intuitive thinking stuff, and I think the only way to do that is through something like this medium, social media, where you can chat to somebody who's done it and who can give you a perspective on it.
Right.
But I would have to say it's not a tool, Pete. And there's plenty of great stuff out there, and you know, it has to be being honest.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to that. I want to hit Kevin, and then you've brought this up a couple times, so we're going to revisit it. Kevin, what do the next 5 years look like? What do the next 5 years do? Where does it take us?
Well, Pete, I'll just mention one when you said technology or maybe tools.
Well, you know, anything. What do you think's going to carry us forward?
Well, I was just going to say thermal imaging cameras. If I could mention something specific, boy, that technology has changed the fire service already. Maybe as much, or not as much, but close to what SCBA's have done. So, I think what the improvements in technology with TICs and what people like our friend Andy Stans are doing, I think that's one specific way that'll really change us where we are now 5 years down the road.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. That's been a very, very dramatic change. Um, and when we say technology and tools, you think about what our computers are doing, right? What took us a desktop computer to do years ago, we're doing on a phone. You know what I mean? So our ability to do this is only going to get better. We're going to get to the point where, and we're actually doing it now. Just a quick one for anybody that's listening or the panel. Are any of you guys familiar with Periscope? Are you anybody? Joe, do you use it, or you got people you follow that use it?
Yeah. Yeah, I use it for instant training. There's I'll just give it out that, St. Louis Fire Department, when I get a working fire, I get a little ping on my phone and I can go and they send a PIO out or whatever, and they're periscoping a working fire that's happening live. I'm getting good size up. I mean, it's just more training for me to, I mean, I'm always searching for that help. I think Periscope is, it's just taking the fires and emergencies to an even more immediate access to where everybody's watching your event. Take it from training, to look at it from a training eye. Again, to talk about what we did, we talked about at the beginning of this program, you can look at it from a critical standpoint, but from a positive one.
Yeah, no, Periscope is a very valuable tool for the folks that are watching. If you want to, it ties to your Twitter account, but essentially what Joe said is people are live streaming fires, and to be honest, a lot of the folks that are doing it are off-duty firemen or the sparks. These are not all the people that are. A little challenge that we see on the 6 o'clock news. These are folks that are showing you good stuff, and I've got several people I follow who just do a great job with it. A lot of stuff in Mass and around. So if nobody has tried Periscope tied to your Twitter account, it's really a very, very valuable tool, and it means nothing to me. I'm not making money on Periscope, but as we said, so it really takes that issue of, we were talking about showing you a simulation. Heck, I'll show you a real fire. I'll show you that black turbulent smoke lighting up. It's it's an amazing tool. It's an amazing tool. John, a couple of times you've talked about, we got to be honest, we got to tell the truth. What do you think the fire service is not telling the truth about? Where are you going?
Well, there's a number of areas. There's a lot of rabbit holes I can go down when it comes to telling the truth. But my big concern is, we have near miss incidents, we have fatal fires. I don't think that we are being totally honest with reporting the incidents, the facts. I think we sort of minimize, and I'm sure we'll get some hate mail. I'll get some hate mail out of this, but we do nobody no value, no justice if we're not accurately stating what happened, what caused the events. If you look at the FAA, when a plane hits a mountain and it's pilot error, they don't say, well, he was blinded by fog, because he wasn't reading the altimeter right. They're speaking the facts, and I think we need to do more of that. That's one area. The other thing is, you talked about standardization or standards in general. We need to maybe start reviewing that, and what might work here could be a standard for certain departments. It is not going to be a general standard for all departments. And again, where is them standards coming from? Are they driven by lobbying companies that are trying to put their products out there? We need to be more honest in a number of areas.
Yeah, Okay, that makes some sense. That makes some sense. The issue becomes an emotional issue, right? When a firefighter is lost in the line of duty, it's the honor, it's the respect, it's the tradition. Nobody's going to say that that guy made a mistake. And people can have their opinions on whether they should or they shouldn't. I don't know as that conversation needs to take place in front of a family, but we minimize when mistakes are made. I think I know what you're saying there, because we do minimize when mistakes are made. I think we're a long way. Pete's opinion, I think we're a long way from getting to that. I don't ever see that happening. We've had some catastrophic failures. I think probably the most dramatic one, not to cast aspersions, but I think the most catastrophic report was the Super Sofa Store fire. I think there was a lot of stuff that came out of that, and a lot of significant changes. So yeah, okay. So we got to be a little more honest about that and do that. Question in the
That
chat
could be done
room.
with diplomacy, though, Pete. We're afraid of hurting people's feelings, but are we actually doing, in particular, the family of the victim justice by sugarcoating any of that information?
Well, I think
they want to know the facts just like we do.
I agree. I would liken it to the civilian world. If and this is this is really a touchy subject. It's not really where I wanted to go tonight, but in a civilian world, I mean, we're having horrible ratios of people taking their own life. And so when a person takes his own life, does the family have to know the ins, the outs, the details, the whatever? What does that do for them? Does that help them? Does that hurt them? It's really, and I think in the fire scene, we have, it's very difficult. This is not cut and dry. I don't disagree with what you said. I'm not sure we're telling it the way it is all the time, but I wonder what the emotional impact is. And what is that memory, right? If the last thing somebody's family member knows is, Uncle Fred's not here because he did something wrong, boy, the rest of your life's a long time. Joe, you want to chime in there? You're leaning in.
Real quick, and I think, though, we need to make reports. The best reports, the ones I recommend for others to read, are internal reports that are released. Boston or Buffalo, or the Pete Dern where he fell through the roof. To use technology. One thing that drives me crazy about NIOSH reports now is that, in today's technology, they could release the audio, video, and it's so easy to do now with cloud-based things. It helps people like me who want to learn, or like us, we don't make those errors or those mistakes. Take it all in rather than reading a bland NIOSH report. Nobody reads NIOSH reports anymore. Find a way to make those reports, after action reports, come to life. And we're not doing a good enough job of that. Generations are new chief officers or younger officers. They want to hear audio, they want to see video before and after. They want it visual. And as far as everything, I agree with you, Chief Lamb. Service is kind of like the military. I'm not a serviceman, but when you go to West Point or the Naval Academy, you learn about past battles. Young cadets that are at these academies learn about the good and the bad of battles. We're kind of like the same. It's presented, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think that if I knew that Uncle Freddie died, but knowing the circumstances saved 25 other people's lives, I think there's some merit to that. So yeah, let's revisit that. That good topic. I think we could go somewhere with that. And I'm glad we threw it out there. Hate mail goes to John Cag. No, No, it's got to be said. When you talk about honesty, John, I mean, you're absolutely right. Thank you for bringing that out. Question in the chat room is, what do we think about the new UL basement stuff that's coming out? The testing and all the stuff. So now I think we've done, and excuse my short-sightedness here. We've done wind-driven. We've done attic. We've done couple of things, and now we're at the basement UL testing. Kevin, have you looked at any of that? You know, you're in the books as much now as you were when you were on the job. It doesn't make a difference to you, but have you looked at any of the stuff that's coming out from that?
Well, I haven't looked at it recently, Pete. I'm not sure what's come out recently. I know they're studying. In fact, I would just back up a second and say they did a bunch of testing like a year ago that they haven't published those results yet about pushing hose lines in and how that affected the fire. I'm still waiting for that, but I think that's one thing, Pete, on the basement fire that I think we have made some progress in being safer as far as trying to get fast water on a basement fire, whether that's you know, through a window, definitely trying to fight it on the same level as a first option rather than pushing down the interior stairs. I think that is one thing that has changed for the better, that we're only going down those basement stairs as almost a last resort. You know, we're forced to. That's the only way down there. So that's one thing I think that has improved. I think that's a safer way, just as an effective way, maybe a more effective way because we're getting water on the fire quicker. So I'm assuming that the new UL stuff is just going to reinforce that. And Chief, I'll just mention one thing just to tag on to what Chief Ponesti said. I have spoken with two guys who were very intimately involved with the Black Sunday fire in one case and the Chinese restaurant fire in Boston in another case. And they said, and it disappointed me because I hang my hat on those NIOSH reports, at least I did, that they were totally basically a bunch of malarkey. And that, boy, did that disappoint me. And just on to Chief Cagnow's point about being honest, we better be more honest than we're doing about physical fitness or the lack thereof.
That would be another one of the tell the truth things too. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Chief Burns.
Yep. No, that's a good one. Joe, what's your take? You're in on a lot of that stuff. What are you thinking about UL? Where were you going with that comment? What's your take the lead on that?
Curious. I see a lot of snippets out there on they're building. I don't know if it's UL and NIST or the fire service instructors, but I noticed where they're looking at different experiments of an outside entrance attack to a basement, windows only to where there was no outside entrance, coming in through a set of stairs to see temperatures and so on. There was the basement study that came out a while back from UL, a lot with construction and things, but this is more to do with, I think, I don't know. I was just curious if anything, or maybe anybody in the audience has seen. Looks like they replicated what took place in DC. I'm just kind of curious to see where they're going or what it's going to be. I will agree. I look at basement fires totally different. We attacked everything is from when years ago on our approach to them.
Yeah, I would think that this whole panel, as I'm sitting here looking at these little thumbnails here, this whole panel was taught get in there and go down the stairs, right? I mean, all of us. That's what we were taught. So we're kind of having. I think it's worse to unlearn something. You know what I mean? I think it's really worse to unlearn something. I lost my mind the other day. One of the times I lost my mind the other day was that we're studying, I actually saw it in writing the other day. I really was angry about this whole, the guy said basically, if you hit the fire from the outside, he actually said, if you do that, you're a coward. It was actually in writing, or it was, well, he used the word cowardice is what he used.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw it, Joe, but I saw it.
I did.
And I'm saying to myself, where are we going with this argument? So this video tonight will be earth shattering. This is a monumental video about whether you hit the fire directly or whatever you do. So Joe, you're a big simulation guy. So create a simulation. Do you have any grandchildren, Joe?
Not yet. No.
All right. The youngest child you can find, go to the elementary school, do a simulation, have the fire blowing out the window, and ask a 6-year-old where he would squirt the water. Just all right. The debate's over. We're done. All right. The debate's put the fire out.
But you're absolutely right. But people like that, who a lot of good things come out of their tweets and things too, but that most are not in a supervisory role. Most are not command level officers. Most are not having to look at the whole big picture. It's easy. It's real easy. Let's go charging down that hill. It's easy. But when you are in a command position, decision on what's going to take place with, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes due to your crews, or make the decision. I hate the term aggressive, or they're paying, oh, look, there was a vacant house fire, somebody out of, oh, we don't search. Who says we don't search vacants? That having a young crop of officers that are hanging their hats on that stuff, I don't think it'll never change in my career. I hope I try every day to try to fix that. He drives me crazy. And, I don't know. It got me all riled up. I hate that. I absolutely hate that stuff. But they're not coming from supervisor. I don't think it's coming from chief officers or captains or anybody with any kind of responsibility on the fire ground other than take the line and go.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. There's a lot of rhetoric. I mean, there's a ton of rhetoric, and I just thought that was just that really was over the edge as far as I'm concerned, because don't take a line, a 2.5-inch line. I'm gonna yield to my friend Kevin, because I know he's done this in real life. So if I take a 2.5-inch line and knock down some heavy fire and drop the line and go in the front door with 1.75 inches, essentially I've hit it hard from the yard, so to speak, and I'm a coward. So Kevin, have you ever had the experience where you were inside doing an attack, things were going horribly wrong? Did you by chance withdraw your personnel and put 2.5-inch lines in the windows?
Yeah, I guess I've done that a couple of times, Pete, when, I thought it was going bad and I wanted to get guys out of there, trying to stop the dominoes from falling.
Sure.
But I would like to make the point, Pete, I know, and this is a whole other show, but on that whole, hitting it hard from the yard, in particular, my comments were directed at basement fires, where people aren't necessarily down there, although, people do sleep in basements, but the life hazard is relatively minimal. And you've got the whole house as an exposure now from the basement, mostly unprotected ceilings, that type of thing. So it's a different discussion. I think we'd have to nuance the discussion if it's, something on the first floor, something close to sleeping areas. I think there's still a lot of merit to getting that line in there. But specifically with basement fires, and I mean, basement fires with heavy fire blowing out a window, if it was up to me, I would never put guys down the basement stairs again, unless that was my only option.
Yeah, no, I get the difference and I get the whole debate, but I put the fire out. if going in the door works for you and you've got enough sufficient water and water supply and whether you're ventilating or anti-ventilating or whatever you're doing, if that's your plan, then darn it all, do it.
But we're losing the focus on, and this again drives me crazy, is that we're in this middle of this debate where the firefighters that are in this debate should stop and think about size of and construction and what are fires going to be. Instead, they're focusing their energy and their 5 minutes on their phone to, should I hit this from the outside? Well, if you do, you're a coward. At 2.5 through the window, you know what? The person who would spend 5 more seconds on Twitter and show that you can take the tips off that 2.5 and throw some inch 3/4 on there and mop up without having to lay a ton of more hose would make a bigger impact with some young kid who's never heard or seen that than yelling, "Oh, you're a coward for hitting it with a 2.5 from the outside."
Yeah. No, and my point is that we're making this an argument that I think, Joe, you hit one that makes, we don't search vacant. Who said that? Who said we don't? We should do some night. We ought to do this again, and we ought to do a show on fire service myths. You know what I mean? Like somebody decided and said we're not going to search buildings anymore. Who said that? I don't know. Get them on the show. We'll do it. But it's really, we've kind of jumped the shark a little bit. I think we're debating now for the sake of debate. I really do. It's I'm right, you're wrong. It's East Coast, West Coast. It's whatever the heck the argument is, but it's taken on a life of its own for sure. So I think that's important. What else? We got 10 minutes or so. What do you want to cover while we got what ground haven't we plowed here in this general?
What about the speed of change, Pete? You talked earlier about what do you think was going to happen in the next 5 years, next 3 years, or whatever. What about just the speed of change? How's that going to? Will we be able to keep pace with the speed of change? There's so many more demands on all of us nowadays, especially, you think of a young chief that he's got loads of EMS issues with things changes there, new equipment problems, and so on and so forth. And then the whole technology thing that's changing by the minute. Chief Burns mentioned how fast the ticks are changing and the technology with that. Will we be able to keep up with the pace?
Yeah, I mean that's a good one. I think that the pace is a problem, and I also, maybe I'm old or getting older, something, I don't know. Don't ever. How many of you buy the first model of something that comes out? Nobody buys the first model of something that comes out unless unless you're an Apple fan or something, and then you stand in line for 3 hours to buy it. But the point is, the first version of anything. I mean, you talking about thermal images, the first thermal imager was this big. In fact, quite frankly, Carnes, I think, had it on the helmet. It was mounted on the helmet. So think about how don't buy the first one of anything because the change will take place pretty rapidly. The other thing that I think is going to affect us, and John, you have a close friend that just dealt with this. I mean, think about the discussion. When you got on, Kevin, what year did you get on the job?
1988.
88, right? So we've been around a long time. We're seeing fire departments now buying body armor because we're getting shot at, right? So forget about technology changing. I think the societal changes are going to have a dramatic impact on how we do business. I joined the fire department in 1976. We weren't going to a lot of carbon monoxide alarms because there were no carbon. We weren't doing a thermal imager. We weren't doing, we put a demand valve on the ambulance and thought we were geniuses. And then we realized we were hurting people's lungs with it because that was the latest and greatest thing. I also joke about how many different ways the people sitting on this panel, how many times have you learned CPR differently in the course of your career?
Every other year.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. How do we keep pace with all of this change? We only have limited, so many resources. Big departments, they have their issues, but they also have huge staff that, to manage them things. How does a chief who's running a small department keep up with all of this change that's coming down the road? Because some of it's mandated, and then, like CPR, they learned it one way a year ago, and now he's going to get all his volunteer members in and retrain them. I mean, along with everything else that's being changed. How does he do it?
Well, I think the answer to that one, boy, I'll throw a grenade that'll launch another episode for sure. We got to regionalize. I can't do this. So I need a guy. I don't need tactical vests on my department. I need a friend with tactical vests on his department that I can borrow. I think we're going to have to share training resources. We're going to have to share, how many departments can run a full-fledged hazmat team? Not many. So you got to have a regional response and so forth. Now, when you say regionalism in the fire service, everybody loses their mind, particularly here. I don't know how it is, Joe, in Ohio, but out in the Northeast, if you said somebody was going to have to share their kingdom, that there would, we had a war about that when, 1776, we fought that battle. So I think this terrorism thing, I think we are, the cops, it's their deal. It's a crime, it's criminal, it's all of that stuff, the federal agencies and all of that. But I'll tell you what, we're in the thick of it. We're in the thick of it. And I think that I don't see that getting any better. I don't see that getting any better.
Pete, I agree. I have an expression that I'm probably not proud of, but I think we're circling the drain as a nation in many ways. And unfortunately, the fire service is, got to deal with that, picking up the pieces. Look at this horrible opioid crisis. You talk about 1976, Pete, and carbon monoxide. When did we ever push Narcan like we do now? I think our business is going to be quote unquote good because of the decline of the social fabric of society and how that'll manifest itself, whether it's drugs or violence.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, Narcan is the whole. I mean, we have departments now pushing Narcan. You got kind of a depressed city, Joe. What do you? It was 5 times a shift, six times a shift. What are you doing?
6, 7 times. We went on a couple today. There's some days over the weekend I worked for July. After there's probably about 10. It's taken over, and it's sad, but that's what we're doing all the time now.
Yeah. So let's put the ribbons on this. Chief Cagno, let's have a summary statement on tonight's show. What did we do? Little positive stuff. This video is going to be available. Is there anything you want to say that people can watch and take a look at later?
I think if we could replicate this, if we could, come together on a consistent basis, maybe topic forum once in a while, maybe an open forum from time to time. I think it's a great medium to educate firefighters, especially the younger people that are coming in, because you got a cast of characters here that I think that are coming from different ends of the spectrum. So like Joe said, you're getting a little bit of everything. You're getting a little East Coast, West Coast, in between and whatnot. So, if we could continue down this path, I think this is the way to educate firefighters versus, some independent wonder out there that's just, parroting somebody else's information.
Yep. Joe, what do you got? Put a summary for us.
Your podcast says it all. When you say changing the fire service one mind at a time or something like that, I'm all on board with that. If people like us can, young command officer who just is looking for the something and is tired of the Twitter or the Facebook, doesn't sure, we can bring a face and an experience to them and help them. And you know what? If we turn 5 people off and help one, so be it.
Yeah. Speaking of shameless plugs though, Joe, don't you have a shameless plug? Don't you have a webinar coming up? Don't you have a webinar coming up soon? What's the date on that?
That was you're talking about the Tweet Fire Engineering. I did a fire engineering webinar called Lost in the Fog of the Fireground, Size Up and Command for the Small Department. It's archived now. I did it in January.
Oh, okay. So that's a rerun. Okay.
Just a rerun, but
Yeah.
good. It's a good class.
Good stuff. Kevin, put a finishing statement on for us.
So Pete, how about personal responsibility? We've got a lot of great young firemen out there. A lot of them are war veterans, sacrificed for this country. And so I'm very optimistic about what they'll do with our job. But I do challenge them to take personal responsibility, to make their mark, make it their fire service, listen to guys like Chief Lamb, Chief Cagno, Chief Prenesti, who only do positive things, and every day try to make themselves better, try to make their departments better. So don't wait for somebody else to do it. I mean, the mentors are important, I agree, but to take that personal responsibility to improve yourself and follow you three guys would be a good start.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Those are kind words. I think, look for a mentor. If you're a young firefighter, look for somebody that's going to give you the right information. Look for somebody. Look for somebody that's going to help. Looks for somebody that's going to help. It's strange. I get very strange requests, and I love them. I get very unique requests from somebody who doesn't know where to turn. And I get emails all the time, and they're individual. I mean, I don't get 1,000 emails, but I get an email. Hey, could you help me with this problem, Chief Lamb? And I'm so humbled because somebody reached out to me in the hopes that they would get an answer, and they do get an answer. It's kind of funny. Last week or 2 weeks ago, and we'll leave this unnamed, I reached out to a very important fire official, fire service official, and I'm still waiting for an answer. And so try to look for people that will help you. Try to look for people that will make this job better each and every day. Well said, Chief Burns. You've got to improve yourself each and every day, and you need to look for the right person who's going to try to help you do that. I hope you folks got something out of this. We'll do it again. We had some serious technical issues tonight. We'll try to work those bugs out. I'm the gadget guy, and I couldn't make anything happen tonight. So we had some Google problems. But again, this broadcast will be up. It will be on firefightingtoday.com. It will be there. It will be on my YouTube channel, and it will also be in the archives. It will be on the PeteLamb.com page, and it'll remain out there. So if you have any questions for any of these folks or something that you would like to see in a future broadcast, send me an email and I can reach out to these guys, and we'll have other people on the panel. I mean, we can take, as you remember, we used to do about 9 or 10 people on the panel. So tonight is kind of a short dress rehearsal to dip our toe back in the water. But we will be assembling other panels again. So thank you, everyone.